Welcome back to Just Beyond the CV, episode 4. I just want to say, firstly, before we get into the episode, thank you to all those people who've been listening. Feedback's been great so far. Today's guest, I've got Dan Shirlaw. Now, Dan, I met a few weeks ago, and the first time I met him, I heard his story, and it was so inspirational. I wanted to get him on, and I'm really excited for you guys to hear his story and how it can help you with resilience and mindset. Dan, welcome to the pod.
Thank you. It's nice to be here. I'm doing really well.
Good, excellent. Looking forward to talking about your story. I think it's going to help so many people. So, as you know, we always have a standard question on this podcast. So, what's something about your career that people would never understand just by looking at your CV?
Well, on my CV, there is actually a little bit of a gap that's happened over the last year and a half. It's with the dates, it's quite well disguised as a gap, but it's something I'm absolutely wanting to talk about, and that's partly why why I'm here now.
Amazing. And just for the benefit of everyone, talk us through your career. Quick synopsis, if I may.
Fine, of course. So, well, I graduated in marketing and French, and that led into quite a logical first move. With my first job was a marketing job, speaking a bit of French. It was for a company called Born Leisure, and they had holiday parks in France and on the continent. And the bar was set very high, I suppose, early on, because my first week, my task was to head out to Barcelona, and then a week and a half later, I'd be flying back from Nice. So I spent a week and a half coordinating a photo shoot with a photographer for the next brochure. So that was a brilliant first ever week of work.
I love that in my first job, to be honest.
So yes, hard to replicate. Yeah. But so I worked there happily for a year and a half, and then I moved to a company called Kraft Foods, who were based in Cheltenham, which is why we're here today. And I've spent many years with that company in various guises. They bought Cadbury's, it became Mondelez. Then a new coffee business was born out of the previous business, so I went along with that. And more recently, I've moved away from coffee, and I'm working in the world of bakery and bagels.
Placed by an amazing recruiter, I gather.
Absolutely,
amazing.
Absolutely. So I guess, I've done everything. People who I've spoken to say I move boxes. That's what we do for a living. It's just moving boxes. Others have said we create moments of happiness and joy, but I guess it's somewhere in the middle is how I describe my roles. But they've been mostly commercial roles and customer facing roles.
Okay. Behind that CV though is a massive story, isn't there? You've alluded to the career gap. So just so it makes sense for everyone, talk us through what's happened.
Okay. So it's a long way back, actually, to the very first point. Back in 1997, when John Major was actually still the Prime Minister,
Blimey.
So it's a long time ago, I was diagnosed with bone cancer, and it was a condition called osteosarcoma, and I was at university at the time, and the long and short of it was that I was referred to a hospital in Birmingham. And that led to me having the cancer removed, and the bone was replaced with a knee replacement, effectively a big knee replacement, and then followed courses of chemotherapy. And so it was a very difficult time, but it was before my working career. Clearly, this was all during university. But I got back to finishing my degree. Or almost finishing my degree, because 2 years later there was actually a recurrence. So it turned out that when they had done the surgery to remove the original cancer, they perhaps hadn't got everything. So there was a soft tissue recurrence back in 1999, which was another series of treatment. This time it was radiotherapy. And that was successful, apart from the difficulties of going through that and missing out on a lot, and what have you. It was all fine, and you can really then fast forward about 27 years, and that brings us to a year and a half ago, where completely out of the blue, there was another lump behind my leg in the same sort of place, And once again, I was diagnosed with cancer, and the treatment this time was to amputate my leg. So that is something that it's clearly still very recent, but yeah, it's clearly had a big impact, and it was a big change for me 18 months ago.
When, I mean, I can't even comprehend how that must feel. Firstly, for it to come back a third time, and then to get the news to, that you're gonna have to lose your leg. How did that? How did that make you feel?
I think it was devastating. The phone call to confirm that the biopsy that had been done was again cancer was a huge surprise. It was a surprise, obviously, to me, but actually the doctors as well were very surprised because of the type of cancer it was. It was not very usual, and they really didn't expect it. So it was a shock. And as always, when you first hear and you first get the phone call, you haven't got the plan, so you just worry, and you don't know what's going to happen next, apart from know that you're due off for more scans. So this was the biopsy had been done on my leg, but I knew I needed a lot more checks and things to check that everything else was okay. So it was absolutely a shock, and I think the other thing I'd add this time is that I'm a dad to 3 children now, so. Actually, probably what was going through my mind as much as the worry about myself was, well, how am I going to tell people, and particularly my children?
Yeah. Of course, and we'll get onto the job a bit later. Your 3 kids, Bonnie, Trudy, and Lewis, isn't it?
That's correct. Yeah.
How did you go about telling them? Do you mind me asking?
Yeah, I think they knew something was wrong.
Right.
So it comes. When I first found out, we were due to go on holiday the following week, and the first thing I thought was, we can't change that. We've got to carry on as normal. And I flew back from France, where we were, to the hospital to have the further tests just in over a couple of days, and then I flew back to France, and I had all of the news about the plan and what was going to happen. So we knew that something was going to happen. Even before I was told I was going to lose my leg, had my suspicions that might be the outcome.
Did you?
So I think I always knew there was a possibility, and I've always sort of thought that at some point in my life it might happen. The knee replacement originally that I had could have become infected at some point. I know there are always complications, and so I didn't think it would happen, but I knew it was a possibility. And certainly when I heard that it was cancer again, the first thing I did think about was, I think this time it might be that I'd lose my leg.
And how did it delivering that news to your family, especially your kids? Did that change how you dealt with it yourself? Because I remember the first time I met you, you walked in. Our offices are in a brewery, and I remember you came out the stairs, and I'm not gonna lie, I was having a shit day, right? And it was a terrible morning, and I was like, got all this stuff on my plate, and then you just bowled in, happy as Larry, smile on your face, and you said to me before we even started talking about it, you said, what was it like? I haven't worn these jeans for a year, and you just had this massive smile on your face, and I was like, fucking hell, what have I been worrying about? And you've got everything you've gone through, and you've got this massive smile on your face, and just that absolutely oozes, sort of happiness. But knowing the way you did, it almost seems like you prepared yourself a little bit for it. The way what you went through with the kids and stuff, and telling them, and obviously going through it, has it changed how you deal with things now, and also how you were going to deal with it? Because there's a lot that we're going to talk about how you dealt with it.
Oh, I think it is different when you have children and you're responsible for what they understand and what they think as well. And I think that helps. It helps you get out of just thinking about yourself a bit, and I think that's quite positive. So I definitely think I approached the tackling what I had to deal with very differently this time compared to before. Yeah, partly because of children, but also I think I've had a slightly different shift in how I look at things, and So in many ways, I found it easier, and I've thought quite long and hard as to what the things are that I find do help me and do make coping and trying to be as positive as possible.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when you left, I went up to the office and I was like, I think I've just met the most positive guy I've ever met in my life. It was incredible. And that's why I was like, so keen to help and support, because I just love that. And there's just so much bad stuff going on in the world at the moment. And I just love being around positive people. And it's where I get my energy from, so fair play to you, mate, but I think let's get into the bit around that I think where most people can learn from, because your mindset towards this is remarkable, like literally remarkable, not just to listen to, but to learn from. And you said you try not to even call it something bad happening. That's what you said, right? Where did that shift come from? And did it feel like a forced thing, or was it just a natural thing?
So, I mean, it's not my original idea. When you think about, I've been at work. I've been on resilience training courses, and it's always
work. Is that with work?
With work, absolutely, right. With work, and and I've read a little bit around the area as well. So the idea of treating an event as a neutral sort of thing, and then you choose how you react to it. That's down to what you can do. I've always been familiar, and I've always quite liked that way of thinking, and I absolutely do believe that. And I think really, if you it's just harder if you don't do that. Everything is harder. So that is important. Yes, just to see things from a neutral viewpoint, and then decide what you want to do about it.
And was there a particular moment it was like, that's it, I'm going to be like this? Or has it been ingrained in you, or is it a gradual thing?
So, I mean, like, you talk about me being positive, and I think what I would say is that's obviously your view and other people's views, and I don't always feel like that, but I absolutely do understand that people can see elements of positivity in me. I guess I see it in my daughter. My eldest daughter, Trudy, has had a rough time recently.
You said about that.
So she's had to have surgery for something very different, but it's gone well.
Great.
But she's also been told she can't do something, so she can't play sport for a long time. And these are big things she's 16, for a 16-year-old girl. And I look at the way she's responded to some of her challenges, and I absolutely see some inbuilt positivity in the air that I think is, wow, I'm not even close to that. So there's probably something inherently in us, but I think more importantly, I do believe you can learn this stuff. And some of the things that perhaps we'll talk about in a minute, you can practice and help yourself to feel a bit more positive.
Yeah, because you're massively into books, right? You read a lot.
Well, I've read
you
around
more than
this.
Me, probably, mate.
I've read a little bit around, certainly around this subject matter. Yeah, it's
okay.
I do find it interesting. Yeah.
Okay. One thing that you said to me when we met, I can't remember if it was the first or the second time, it was about the time when they said to you, you're going to lose your leg, and you now need to go in a wheelchair. Because I think this is one of the. I used it today, the mindset thing around like how you view things with someone, actually, because that's one of the things that's brilliant about me doing this is like I get to speak to some incredible people, and I just get to take all this stuff and plonk it in my mind and then use it. But one of the most powerful things you said to me is around this wheelchair. Can you talk me through that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, and this is in the context of mindset, I suppose, and for me, mindset is very much like you just said. It's reframing a situation and looking at something that might not be the best and turning and looking for the opportunities. I was devastated when I first was told everything that was going to happen and the implications of losing a leg. A lot of it took me by surprise. It was all happened very quickly, and it was particularly difficult when I remember I was being measured up and told that I had imagined I'd be on crutches, hopping around, just I knew I'd get a leg at some stage.
Yeah,
so this was more in the period between the operation and receiving my first leg, which is quite a lengthy time. And I just didn't see myself in a wheelchair. But very quickly I realised it was very necessary because I had to heal. I needed to take out all elements of doing any damage, and and things like that. So it was a fact. I needed to use a wheelchair, and it was a shock. And gradually, okay, I was using it to go around the house, and as I felt stronger, I was taking it out to the parks, trying to get some fresh air, trying to keep fit. And actually that developed into me being able to manage it all on my own. I'd sort of wheel to the car, use my crutches, get the wheelchair in the car, because I can drive without my leg on. And soon I was, doing miles, basically.
Really?
Wheeling up and down Honeybourne Lane.
It's a big old lane,
it's a big old lane, but it's a great surface. And
is it?
And I loved it. And it started to be my daily routine. And it was it was to keep fit and to build strength and just to get feeling positive. And, by the end, when I was in the week when I was about to receive my leg, I do remember sitting in the wheelchair after a wheel and thinking, I'm going to miss this. I may need a wheelchair at some point during my life. I accept I probably will need to be in a wheelchair at times, maybe through an injury or something else might happen. I might need to be looking after my skin, and which means I can't wear my leg. But I'm not scared of it. It's there in the cupboard. I don't hide it away and hope that I never use it again. I kind of see the wheelchair as it's almost like it was a fitness machine.
Yeah, fitness machine.
And it's temporary, and I'm quite happy. So it's sort of rethinking what I think about it.
Because like the wheelchair's a wheelchair. I suppose the way you're looking at this is you can either look at this and go, I'm in that for a while, and I'm going to just let it eat away at me. Or I can just go, right, it's a fitness machine. I'm going to get involved in this, and I'm going to get myself fit. I'm going to get down Honeybourne Lane and all that. And that is just from your mindset. Simple as that. Because it's the same thing, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. It's turning something that you didn't really want to do into positive. And it's genuine. My fingers and hands were as strong as they've ever been. There's so many positives that you could, if you think about it, you can list if you want to.
And you also told me you become pretty good at free kicks in the back garden.
Well,
is that a rumor, or is that true?
Oh, I mean, you might have to ask Lewis, but I mentioned that because it's an example of something that I can't really do anymore.
Yeah.
The kicking a ball around is something I can't do. Used to, absolutely, with the girls and with Lewis, I still do. So I work on it, just to be out in the garden, and I can take a free kick. But actually, it's not the be all and end all. I think there's unlimited a number of other things that can replace that. Being out, having a laugh, just being with the kids. It doesn't have to be what you were doing before. So it's kind of nice as a way of thinking about, it was nice and you can evolve it, but you don't have to go back to doing everything you were doing.
Yeah. And do you think you talk about things are different? Because I can imagine for kids growing up, if you don't mind me saying, like, it is a different life now, isn't it? Do you think, how have they managed that?
I mean, you would honestly think they take it in their stride.
They're resilient sometimes, kids, aren't they?
They are, absolutely resilience. They just want the best. You can just see they want the best. Amazing. For me. They'll do. They just want to see me happy. So I guess not playing football with Lewis or the girls in the garden, it wasn't so much that I miss it. It's just I didn't want Lewis to miss having that time with his dad. But he doesn't miss it. He's happy. He just wants the best for me, and it's
that's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, fair play to him and all of them, to be honest. Rehab waiting room, you mentioned to me. I to be honest, mate, that's not really left my mind much about what you said about that, because there are these things that, getting to know you just drop them in. I'm like, that's mind blowing. But then to you, it's just like normal. Talk me through and tell the listeners around like what you noticed in the old waiting room.
I mean, I think it's an example of needing. If you don't have all of the information, you can't really judge what's going on somewhere.
Okay.
And this was an example. The first time I went in there, and maybe even the early days. So this is in Selly Oak in Birmingham. It's the West Midlands Rehab Centre, and that's where I got kitted out with my leg. Right. It's where all the physios are, where the prosthetists are. But you go into the waiting room, and the first time you go in, it's pretty grim. It's lots of people with limbs missing or limb differences, people with requirements of mobility aids, and everybody looks a bit grumpy, but in the way that everyone is in a hospital waiting room.
Do you mind me asking, so to check, like going into that waiting room, what was your? Did you prepare for it? Did you think it was going to be like that, or did you go into it going, oh, it is what it is, or is it I'm going to go in prepared and I'm just going to be mentally strong here?
I think it was such a rush. And
Really?
we're only talking a week and a half timeline between being given the plan as to what was going to happen and having the amputation. A couple of weeks. It was very quick. Absolutely. And some of this time was in France as well. So I was living by the day, and I hadn't thought what it would be like, but when I did get in there, the first thing that I realised was that I was one of the few that walked in on two legs, and I was thinking, well, I'm about to join this club, and I'll be a lifetime member of this group who's in here, but that was early. But I guess the point about the rehab room, and when I mentioned it, is that changed. My view of it changes. I can't wait to go back there now. I go in and check. I go every 6 months to see the prosthetists or the physios and check the alignment and everything. And actually, I don't think everybody was necessarily as miserable as I first perceived. And people have got an issue, they've got a problem, and they're there to fix it. So the whole way I see, those trips and that room and that rehab room is very different now. And I think that's the information, because I know that people are there to have a problem fixed rather than just worrying about all the the negative thoughts that are running through your head, which I had in the early days.
Have you built like a community with that? Like, because I know you mentioned to me about how you befriended the GB Paralympic team.
Yes.
I mean, how do you do that?
Well, no,
is that through that, or?
Well, so there's a charity called Limb Power, and actually, the way I did get
plug
involved
to them,
with
by the way, if you're listening.
Yeah. So it was just a leaflet on a flyer or a poster on the wall, and maybe one of the physios had mentioned it, and I rang them, got in touch, and learnt about the sorts of things they do, and I've been involved in lots of things. I mean, we might talk about some of the routine that I do, but yes, there are Paralympians who are in amongst that group and it's an amazing community to be.
To even win a gold medal in canoeing, I'm not sure.
Yeah, so Jack's a double world champion, I think,
really?
And he's been to I don't know what certainly a double world champion and a Paralympian.
Yeah, because we talked on previous episodes about learning from people, and in your what you're going through, you're still seeking out people, trying to get better and trying to learn, even though what you're going through.
There are some amazing people. And I think everybody in Limb Power is limb different or limb loss. Jack is particularly inspiring because he's got the same sort of setup as me. Above the knee and the similar kind of prosthetic. And I honestly, the stories just really inspire you of these people who I'm on WhatsApp groups with and motivating each other. So it's been really important just to surround myself with these types of people.
Yeah, I think sometimes there's some bloody good human beings. I was at the marathon on Sunday. My wife was running the marathon, and I came away from it and I was like, let's face it, the world's not great at the moment, and there are some really good human beings about. And like you said there, someone like that, taking inspiration from that, and that's amazing. So I'm going to move it to applying it to work and career, because I think that's what I like about you, Dan, is that you can really relate to mindset, resilience, all that, but you can also relate to a big career break. And it is one of those things that people talk about, and I had it today where someone's gone, how do I deal with this? And you've literally gone through it, but your attitude towards it, and I worked very, very closely with you, so I know exactly how you approached it. But with the way the job search is now for people and how they're navigating careers, I think hearing it through your lens will really hit differently. So if someone's listening now and they are in a career break, or they've been made redundant and they're at rock bottom. Um, what's the first thing, if you were in front of them now, what would you be saying to them?
I would go back to that reframing idea. So for me, it was an opportunity and a deliberate opportunity to. I had to get back to walking and to just get back to normality with my family. But I've also used it to really think about my resilience and to do a lot of writing. And I know and this is where you've got to start. I have much more to offer now, having gone through that than I have before. So
You,
you
you
start with,
generally think that though, don't you?
yeah,
You said, like, because so many people will say, I've had a career gap and I'm being viewed like I'm not maybe even worthless sometimes. You've got a career gap and you've been through a serious illness and lost your leg, and you actually feel you've come out the other side better.
oh, completely, yeah. And in terms of the gap itself, I mean, the way I would see it is if I've worked 20 years
Yeah,
solidly.
decent stint behind
So
you.
I've done
Yeah.
done 20. I'll probably work for another 20 years. I mean, maybe hopefully not, but who knows? It might be. And considering what I've gone through, and I would say it would almost be more strange for an employer to say you've been through that and you didn't take a break to get things back to normal. It's perfectly normal, and you've got to I cannot see how it hasn't helped me in a way just to get everything back, and I've really loved it, and I have made the most of it as well. So from preparing to be on podcasts to writing to documenting, I've done a lot of journaling of what I've been through, and so I've really made them. I've been as busy as ever, but yeah, if you've got to, I don't see it as an issue at all, and you've got to be comfortable to talk about it clearly, and but I certainly feel like I am.
You talk quite a bit. I've spoken to you about getting caught up in what's unfair, and you've been dealt a really bad hand 3 times, right? But mostly the third time. And a lot of people are looking at this going, I've been dealt a bad hand. I'm struggling to put food on the table for my kids. I'm going down the job centre. That's really hard to navigate when you're in the middle of that, because it all feels like it's falling on top of you. With what you've learned over the last 12 to 18 months, how would you practice getting out of that? Because I think, knowing you, I know you could do that.
Yeah, I think, and look, it's very difficult. I understand that it can be and feel overwhelming. I suppose that's the feeling. It feels overwhelming. It feels big, and there's no end in sight. I suppose those are the things. But I believe you can't look at you've got to bring it back. You've got to bring it back down to the very next step. So for me, quite literally, I practice the next step, and that's how you get out of it. And you just have to get going. Don't just think about the next thing you're going to do, and then build momentum, because then the confidence will come back. So try and distance yourself from those big, overwhelming feelings, and just focus on the few things and just get started, and then you will build confidence.
Yeah, and that is so true, because confidence is the key bit, isn't it? Having confidence in your strengths as well, because I think people, when they're going through really bad times, whether it is, it could even be you're in work and it's toxic, or your boss is on top of you, whatever, and it's like, it needs to go back to who I am and what my strengths are. But you said to me that a gap on a CV is not a weakness; it's growth. I mean, I've never even say that. I'm going to steal it if I can, to be honest.
I suppose it depends what you do with it.
Well, yeah, there is that. But so many people are terrified of a career gap. Some are enforced. I've dealt with people who, there's a guy we placed who I really connected with, because both our dads, mine's unfortunately no longer here, but he passed away and he had Alzheimer's. and he was putting his dad in a home and he had to take 8 months off work, not planned. But I know he got absolutely victimized for that gap. I mean, like, and I know, we've said, haven't we, that you didn't really, because obviously you went through an amazing recruiter, obviously, Dan, but we know that you would have had the same, and you've got one of the most valid reasons I think I've ever heard. But people are terrified of them because companies are terrified of them as well. I think companies will see a career gap as like, you've done something wrong. So what would you say if someone's like ashamed of that career gap?
I think that comes down to a bit of your identity, and it's you have to be comfortable to start with who you are and what you're doing, and you have to believe yourself that what you're doing is for the right thing. And if you're not comfortable, then it's very difficult to then, I suppose, project that to an employer. They might see that, but if you know what why you're doing it and you are comfortable, then I think you should be able to get that across.
Did you I think if I asked, when did you start thinking about going back to work? Like, when you did start thinking about it, did you think like, well, I'm a bit worried about this at all, or not?
I if I'm really honest, I didn't worry. I planned a year to get up and running. At the end of that, my daughter also had surgery, so there was a bit of wanting to be at home for when Trudy was in hospital and what have you. So the timing, that was sort of dictating the timing. What did I worry about? I'm sat here. I like talking about what I've been through. I really think I could tell people why I'm better now than I was before, and why I'm more able to do the things that job is asking me to do than I was before, perhaps. So I'm maybe I'm naive in that sense, but I'm quite comfortable that I think that there is an answer to that. What was I worried about going back? It was more the physical changes. How I dress. I'm more comfortable wearing shorts. The leg works better when I'm wearing shorts. Next week I think I've got a dinner black tie do. So I haven't quite thought about what I'm going to do and how I'm going. But it'll be fine. So that it was more that sort of things. I think in the early days I was tired a lot. The energy levels were lower, definitely, because of the effort needed to keep going. But now that's back, so the energy is back to normal. So I know I didn't really worry about the gap and how that would affect what I thought about work. Luckily I'm back at work quite quickly, and I'm quite happy.
I think what I take from that, and we've always got to take away stuff from these episodes, is don't hide your story. Be honest and be proud of who you are. And if a company doesn't recognise that, then they're not the right company for you, right?
Oh, absolutely. The fit isn't right, and that's right. You could hide things, couldn't you? You could try and hide it with a year. My job lasted from this year to that year, but that's why would you hide? You ask yourself, why would I want to hide something? And you want to work with someone who knows the real you, and you've got to base your purpose and what you want to do on the real you, not on a different version of you. So yeah.
You said as well, like you've not cracked resilience. This is like an ongoing development. I've never heard of anyone go, I'm developing my resilience, I'm training my resilience. And it is probably one of the most honest things anyone said. I appreciate we're only at episode 4, but why was it important for you to say that to me though? Like when we met.
Well, I remember you. We were talking, and you asked, "Look, have you cracked it?" And I said, "Well, I don't think you can. You have to practice it." So what I meant was, you need to keep doing things. You need to keep on it. And for me, resilience isn't about coping with something that's happened and getting back. So yeah, I've had a difficult situation, and I've had to get through that and back to work. It's more about being prepared for what's around the next corner, because there will be something around the next corner. So it's your daily, your routine, your rhythm, it's your mindset. So there are all lots of things that you can do. So it's more looking forwards, and the practice isn't it's quite fun. It's just things that you know aren't chores, but just building up that way of coping with change, or being able to be the best you can be for whatever comes around the corner.
Yeah. Last question, just around this. There are, and I know I speak to them daily, and there are people very happy in their jobs out there at the moment, but there are people who are not. There are people out there who are really vulnerable at the moment, and really struggling mentally, kind of at the rock bottom stage. And if they are listening today, I want you to say this like directly. What do you want them to know from you that you have learned over these last few months?
I think I would start by what we've said, is that it's overwhelming, but don't think you've got to fix everything in one go. So start with the very next thing you're going to do, and do it well. I would and remember who you are. I think that is critical. You can if things change and you're comfortable with who you are. For me, is that wearing shorts? Is that with this leg out, or is it hiding it away? It could be different depending on the day. But if you know that you can be true to yourself, you've always got that to fall back on, even if things change for the worse. So don't lose sight of who you are through it all. And I mean, we've alluded to it already, is you surround yourself with good people.
Good human beings.
Absolutely.
They're key, aren't they?
And share it. Show the people you trust a bit of vulnerability, and you will get it. You will get a lot back. So I'd start with those three things. And
Thank you. Now, one of the signature things we have at Just Beyond the CV is the previous guest asks the current guest a question. So Tom Woodhams has asked you a question, and what he wants to know is, what is something you felt uncomfortable talking about before, but now feel comfortable talking about?
Right. Well, I mean, what we've talked about. I mean, it is this. So if someone, you said I'm positive, and I've heard that, and if anybody previously asked me, well, how can you be positive with what you've been through? I probably have never really given a good answer. It's just, you have to be tough. You have to tough it out. What else? What other options have you got? But I've realised that no, it's a bit more scientific. So you can practice, like I've said, and you can really improve your resilience and how you think about things. And I think going into thinking about my makeup and my identity and my mindset, it's really helped me think about what I want to do and what I've got to keep doing to prepare myself for whatever is around the next corner. And I think I can, and I like talking about that now. I feel like I know a little bit more about myself and about the subject more. So that's one thing I think I'm more comfortable and capable of doing now than I would have been before.
Right, mate. This is the last bit now. I've got a surprise for you, actually. I haven't told you about this bit. So for those who listen, don't know, we got put in touch by a mutual friend, George Tuck, who is the head of Out of Home at Danon. And I asked him, because I know he managed you for, how long was it?
I can't remember. Several years. Yeah.
So he knows you well.
Yeah.
Right. So I asked him, I said, can you just send me an email on what Dan is like? Because I want to tell everyone. And this is him word for word, right? So quite simply, Dan is a fantastic guy inside and outside of work. Dan's positivity and humility shine through every day and in everything he does. His approach the last few years has been inspiring to watch. The impact this has had on me, and I'm sure many others, is profound. And I take this inspiration not just in life's big moments, but every day. I doubt that there are many people who genuinely have an impact like that, but Dan does. The world needs more Dans. What do you think of that, mate?
Wow, it's very touching.
It's
Very
good,
touching.
isn't it?
I mean, yeah, it's amazing.
Mate.
Yeah, I mean, I think the world of George,
you
obviously,
do.
as well.
Yeah.
So,
He's a good
but
guy.
no, it's it's lovely to hear. Yeah,
Good, mate. And I think that just sums it up. The world needs more Dans, really. So, mate, thank you ever so much for coming on. If this episode doesn't help people, I don't know what will, to be honest, when it comes to this. You've been an incredible guest. It's an inspiring story. So thank you ever so much. Thank you for listening to Just Beyond the CV. If this episode meant something to you, please share it with someone who needs it. Leave us a review and we'll see you next time. Don't forget to follow us on Just Beyond the CV on Apple, Spotify and YouTube.